What's going on, everybody? This is No Filter and Nintendo Podcast, and this is episode 25 being recorded on April 12th, 2019. It has been quite a little while. I haven't recorded something in a little while. Work has just been super hectic, and apart from having some time for games in my free time, it's been just straight up work almost everything. So it's been crazy. I haven't had time to film, so I wanted to make sure I record some podcasts right here. I have quite a lot to talk about. I have quite a few games I've been playing, and I have some pretty cool hot topics that I want to go over. Some Nindies showcase that went on. I sadly wasn't able to record a live reaction to that. I do love the live reactions. You guys seem to have really enjoyed the last one I did for the last Nintendo Direct. I will for sure be doing another one whenever the next Direct comes out. And I also want to talk briefly about Borderlands 3 as well. But yeah, let's just jump into this. Now, I'm going to have some reviews coming up on the channel as well, along with a kind of a haul video, I guess you could say, of puzzle games and me going over some of the better puzzle games that have come out to Switch recently. As a lot of you might know, I'm a huge puzzle game fan, and the Switch is, again, just like most games, Switch is perfect for puzzle games. Being able to sit down and veg on your couch and play some of them, but also just being able to play in handheld mode while watching TV or something in the background. It's really perfect for puzzle games, so I think a lot of you guys should check out that video. That'll be coming up within the next few days after this podcast. Anyway, first game I want to talk about that I've been playing recently is Jungle Z. Jungle Z is a survival game taking place in, again, a post-apocalyptic sort of setting, but, more in like the zombie nature, right? So essentially you're playing as a survivor. You are out with friends, people get attacked, zombies are outbreaking, and all of a sudden you find yourself alone in the wilderness, going through different, going to different bars or different houses, farmhouses, and tents and camps, and you're just out in the forest, and you're trying to avoid being killed by the zombies and trying to escape. It is an interesting game. It's more or less a scavenging game. The combat is there. It's not particularly, crazy or good, but the game is more about the survival aspect. So a lot of this is scavenging, and one of the more interesting features about the game is anytime you walk, you're transmitting noise, and you can see the amount of noise you're transmitting around you when you're walking. So what you can do is you can go into stealth mode, basically where you're crouching and you don't make as much noise, where you can then sneak up on zombies and kill them with one hit, or one or two hits with whatever weapon you can have. Everything you scavenge has implications. Basically, if you have a club, if you use it more than enough, the durability will drop and it will break, and you'll have to find a new club. Every bit of food you can have will increase your hunger. Water will increase your thirst. And you have all these different things, like a stamina meter, all that kind of stuff. And it builds up over time. You will be collecting more and more. You will build up, equip different gear that you can find that also has damage if you use it too much. Everything has a lifespan in the game, including yourself, and the game is roguelike in a way, because you will start off from the very beginning whenever you do play. However, once you make it to a different chapter, you then will restart from that chapter going forward. So there is a progression, and I do like it, because every time you're playing the game, you want to jump ahead a little further and a little further. So at the start, you're going to be dying relatively quickly. You're getting a hang of everything. And when you're actually playing through and killing some of the zombies and collecting money throughout the game, you can then actually use that to buy skill points. You can actually use those to upgrade your skills that can then be carried over to your next run, right? So there is a constant progression throughout the game, which again is one of the main things that you need to have in a roguelike game. If you don't have that in a roguelike game, or roguelite, I guess you could call this, it's not good. And thankfully this one does, and the gameplay is interesting. The game looks really nice too. It's got this cool little sort of like a cel-shaded aspect. It's top down, but kind of on a isometric view. It looks really good. It sounds pretty decent. but again, it really does put you into the shoes of kind of a survivor in the wilderness. What happens is at night, the zombies will be very rabid and they will chase after you. So you have to set up turrets, and you can build different structures. So you can build up machine gun turrets. You can build fires to keep you warm. You can build barricades that can keep out zombies so they won't attack you as much. It's really cool, and a lot of the time during the day you're kind of building up your resources, trying to keep yourself not going hungry or thirsty, and then you collect enough resources throughout the day to then survive through the night, then tear down all the equipment or all the turrets and stuff that you made throughout the night so that you can survive the zombie horde, and then go on about your business after you take down all of the turrets and barricades that you've created for the night. There are some larger sort of, I guess you could say, boss battles in the game. There are different objectives that you find. Like, for example, at the start you'll have to find a radio where you can then radio in where you're located, see if there's anyone else there who's survived. And the game really does put you in the shoes of a survivalist, and I love survival games like this. This is, again, much more about scavenging and resource management in order to then survive the night, which is a really cool aspect to it. And yeah, I think if you aren't kind of tired of the zombie kind of feature in games and the setting, I think this is definitely a game that you might want to take a look at. It's well made, and it definitely does put you into the shoes of a survivalist in a zombie setting. So I really do enjoy the game. That's Jungle Z on Nintendo Switch. The next game I've been playing is called Claybook. And this is an interesting 3D puzzle platformer. Essentially, you're in a child's sandbox, or I guess you could say clay box, and he's basically built up a whole bunch of these structures, and you play as either a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, or I guess a wheel. And think of like a wheel of cheese or something like that. And essentially, you're rolling through the levels. You get to different... you need to find different, nodes throughout a level, or you need to fill up a certain tub with other sand. And again, all you can do is shift yourself into one of these different shapes. And one of the other aspects of the game is if you hit the R trigger when you're playing, you basically can sink into the existing sand or clay that is in the level. So again, you can basically roll around, you can sink into existing, so say there's a wall in front of you, you can go at the wall, hit the R button while you're touching it, and you can kind of sink through the wall to move through it. Or say there is sludge that is coming down a large slide-looking contraption in front of you, and you need to fill up a certain tub as an objective. Excuse me. If you need to fill up a certain tub as an objective, you can then sink into the sand to create a trough that will then carry that sludge or whatever into that tube or into the bucket that you want to fill up to then complete that objective. The world looks really realistic. The visuals are not like amazing to me, just purely because of my taste, but the game looks really good. It looks like you're playing through like a clay or a sandbox, and it's really kind of interesting. And a lot of the levels are kind of cool too. Some of them are kind of time trial based. You want to make sure you kind of go through them a little bit quicker. But yeah, no, it's a really cool, unique way of playing a 3D platformer. I really had a lot of fun with this game. Again, I would say this is worth a look if you are interested in having a new, unique experience in 3D platforming genre, especially like more of a puzzle aspect included with it. It's really kind of cool, and I found a lot of different things I've never quite seen before in a video game, which is always one of the big bonuses for me that I'm looking for in games. And that's why a lot of indie games attract me to them, is because a lot of them are trying something new that these larger companies haven't really tried before. So yeah, the Claybook is a thumbs up in my book. If you guys are no pun intended, if you guys are again, if you're 3D platformer fans, puzzle fans like this, I think this is a game you want to take a look at. It's definitely a lot of fun and a lot of unique different settings and stuff like that you can play through. It's really cool. Next game is called Vaporum Steampunk Dungeon Crawler. So they make it very clear that, yeah, this is a steampunk dungeon crawler. So yeah, as you guys know, dungeon crawlers, first person, kind of tile based, going through different levels, puzzle solving, attacking enemies, It's very classic in that way, but it does it really, really well. Essentially, you play as a man who wakes up out in front of this large obelisk. He doesn't know what happened before, as a total case of amnesia, but he sees this obelisk in front of him and it's calling to him, so he goes inside, and that is where you start. There's this huge obelisk. You're going through basically this huge tower when you're playing it, and yeah, it's got the kind of steampunk aesthetic going with it. What I do like is it has different options for when you're playing through, because I've played dungeon crawlers and I'm a semi-fan of them. Some of them, I find a lot of people have been trying to do dungeon crawlers and they just kind of fall flat. They don't really do much new, or at least they aren't really that polished. But I do think Vaporum is one of the more polished dungeon crawlers I've played in the last, like 10 years. It's really kind of impressive, and one of the things I like is this feature that instead of a classic feature, you have kind of a modern feature where everything is more smooth. So doesn't seem so tile based. It almost seems like you're actually just in a first person view running through this obelisk. It's really kind of cool. It has like a head bobbing when you're running and stuff like that. It has a smooth transition in between like each tile that you're on, and it's definitely very impressive, especially for an indie studio to make something like this. Very high quality. It's got all the puzzle solving. You have all the inventory management. You'll find different weapons to equip, and armor, and guns, and bullets you have to save, and be conservative to use in case you hit a larger kind of a boss enemy. It's definitely a lot of fun. Some of the puzzles can be a little bit abstract, but I think the maps are generally pretty clear what direction you need to go and what area you should be in. So again, a lot of the issues I have with some first-person dungeon crawlers like this is sometimes the puzzles are just kind of ambiguous and you don't really know where you need to go, and then you get stuck in one of these humps where you're like, well, I don't know what to do here, and it just doesn't make it that fun for you because you're just kind of going through very similar looking dungeons, which, to be fair, a lot of these are kind of similar. They do throw little differences in there. There'll be some pretty little areas and stuff like that kind of separate the kind of monotonous corridors, but a lot of them are sort of similar, and that's just kind of what comes with the genre. I don't think I've really seen a first-person dungeon crawler that's really switched up every little area that you're in to a vast degree. But the further along in the game, definitely the more interesting it gets. And that's Vaporum, steampunk dungeon crawler. I'm also a steampunk fan, so maybe that could have swayed my view on this game. But as far as first person dungeon crawlers go, if you're a fan of those, this is definitely a big thumbs up for me. High quality, a lot of fun to play, and I think it's definitely worth a look if you're into these type of games. Next game is called Pressure Overdrive. Pressure Overdrive is a top-down, I guess you could say twin-stick shooter, but you're playing that while racing, I guess. Not essentially race. It's not really a race, but you are kind of moving forward in a vertical direction as if you're racing cars. You're in this kind of, think of a Mad Max kind of dune buggy that you've built up with, spikes on the sides, and you have a turret on the top, and you're in there. You have a different hull armor on it, and you're kind of like jerry-rigging this dune buggy, and you're kind of racing through these levels, but a lot of enemies are coming up behind you and then racing and going ahead in front of you, and you have to shoot them down, and you want to make sure you shoot as many as you can, because the more you kill, the more coins you'll unlock, collect, and then you can unlock different upgrades to your cart, different weapons, different armor, different stats, all that kind of stuff. And that's essentially what the game is. You're just kind of going through level by level. There's a lot of levels in the game, which is really good, a lot of replay value. But one thing I found I didn't like was that there were so many in one set of levels. So there'd be, say, like 12 levels in one set. The levels aren't that short either, so you'll be playing in a very similar looking level set for quite a long time in order to beat those, and then you finally move on to a new one, then you play that. But then again, it's a lot of levels each one. I think it would be nicer if they split up and had a little bit better pacing with how the levels look, because a lot of the levels look very similar, and the only thing that was really changing throughout each level was sometimes you'll have some new enemies that you have to kind of learn their patterns, really, which aren't too tough to learn. It's pretty quick. And but then you'll have new weapons and armor that you've unlocked as you play through. So a lot of the weapons are kind of fun. Like, you have like a typical machine gun. Sometimes you have like a mortar can, or if one of the later weapons that you can unlock, which I unlocked pretty early because I was saving up for it, was a mortar cannon, which basically you'll see actually on my Twitter, if you guys check out my Twitter on Wizrad, I posted up a video of it, was me Basically, you have all you see is a reticle, and it's moving away from you as you aim. The longer you aim, the further the reticle will move away from you, and then mortar will drop, and it has huge damage on the enemies. But it is tough to try to lead ahead of some of the enemies to kill them as they're moving, which is actually a lot of fun. A lot of the leading ahead of enemies to kill them, so it's not just, oh, there's enemy, point directly at it, shoot it. No, you actually have to kind of think of where your bullets are going to be and when you're shooting them. But yeah, the game looks pretty good. It's it's not like gonna blow your face off or anything, but for an independent game like this, it's pretty impressive. Full 3D kind of a look to it. It is top down, but almost again more in kind of like an isometric type view. Again, it looks really good. I just wish the levels had a little more variety, quicker, and not just as you play through like dozens and dozens of levels. But the upgrade system's kind of fun. You just being able to change up your buggy and how it feels when you're actually playing the game. That is a bonus for sure. And I think it's a good game. If you're into, I guess, these twin stick shooter type games, I think this might be a game you want to take a look at. Next game I've been playing is called Degrees of Separation. Degrees of Separation is a 2D puzzle platformer, I guess you could say. The cool aspect or the cool feature about Degrees of Separation is essentially you play as a prince of a kingdom and I guess a princess of a different kingdom, and they basically are running from either side of the screen. They meet together, but they find that they are in different dimensions. One dimension is in a cold dimension where his whole world is full of snow and frost, and everything he touches is frozen, whereas the girl is in a fire world, I guess you could say, where everything is either on fire or heated, or it is like in a summer setting. So it's basically, think summer versus winter, but they're together on the screen. So this game is a lot of heavy co-op. I didn't actually play this co-op, but I do find that you can play this game relatively well with just one person, because you can kind of just choose who you control, and then you can have them follow you, and you can direct them where to go. So it might take a little bit longer to do some of the puzzles, but playing alone, I didn't find it was any different than, or any big detriment to my enjoyment of the game. I thought it was still pretty good. But yeah, so all the puzzles will kind of revolve around that aspect, where say the screen is always kind of blocked in half wherever the people are, right? So say you're you're like the ice prince, and you jump over the the summer princess. You'll jump over, and then you'll see the whole screen still shift at like this plane in between you two, to now say she was on the right side and you jumped over her, and now you're on the right side. Everything on the right side now will be frozen because it's part of his his window into his dimension on that side. So you'll find a lot of puzzles where, say, you need to walk over a large ravine, you can't reach it. So essentially, you end up going above the level, or the summer princess will go above the level, but then the ice prince can go below and then walk on the lake, because everywhere he's walking is now frozen, right? Whereas if you switched it around and the ice prince was on top and the summer princess was on the bottom, she would be walking under and into the lake and not be able to do that. So there's a lot of puzzle making around this kind of idea of hot and cold, frozen and not frozen. And you kind of go through a lot of the levels like this. Again, I do think it might be a little bit better if you're in co-op, because a lot of these puzzles can be kind of, a little bit tricky and you want to think about it. But I never really got stuck too hard on any of these. It was relatively, simple-ish, I guess, to go through. It's more of a casual setting to kind of go through. So, it's an interesting game. It has a lot of those kind of interesting different puzzle mechanics that I haven't really seen before. So again, it's another one of these games where it's doing something I haven't quite seen before. You've seen something sort of similar, but not to this degree. And it's definitely a lot of fun when you're kind of playing through like that and going through some of the puzzles. It's definitely kind of a casual kind of romp through it. It's not like any high action or anything like that. The graphics look pretty good. I don't like the animations as much, though. You kind of see like kind of the looseness, as if everything's kind of on like a pin and just kind of swaying. But overall the graphics are pretty cool, and it has some really nice little areas, and it's cool to see how each world, actually, now that I think about it, it's really kind of almost like a marvel of how much work they had to go through to make each level then instantly shift basically on command to like kind of a summery setting to a wintry setting. It's really kind of cool to see that. So like if you walk into a place where it's like a waterfall, and you see it, oh, it looks beautiful, it's moving, but then all of a sudden you switch to the Ice Prince to being on that side, and now you see it's all frozen over. It's really kind of cool to see these things. And it's kind of a cool game like that, and it has like that unique feature. I think if that kind of interests any of you guys, I think it's definitely worth a look. Next game I have played is called Blood Waves, and this is kind of an interesting game. It is a zombie survival game. I wouldn't say horror, but I guess kind of like that. But it's arena based, so essentially you're in the middle of an arena. You have a knife, and you have. That's essentially it. Zombies are coming from 8 different doors surrounded around you in a circle. You're in the center, and you're attacking them. After the end of each round, you collect different money from the zombies. You can buy weapons, traps, armor, bullets, all that kind of stuff. And then you start the new round. You go through it again. The zombies become more tougher and more of them. But while they're doing that, you also get more weapons and more traps that you can set up. It's just that's what the game is, and you go through the levels, see how far you can get, and that's essentially it. But it is a full 3D third-person shooting game. It looks okay. It's not a technical marvel or anything like that, but for like a cheap eShop game, it is pretty impressive for the price. What they've done, it controls pretty well. Some of the animations seem a little bit weird, but they're pretty decent, all things considered. It definitely gets you in that kind of hook. It is a roguelike game where if you die, you're starting right from the beginning. It's a high score type game like that. But it is a lot of fun, and it definitely got me hooked at times. Like the first couple times I was playing through, I got through a few rounds, then I would die. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't being as careful. But then the further and further you get in, the more money you're getting, and then all of a sudden you're making these huge death traps with these barricades blocking flamethrowers that attract the zombies to there, and then you see all the zombies burning alive, or burning dead, I guess you would say. And then you can shoot them from behind when they're there. You can run away, shoot them with you can have a shotgun, you can have an RPG, machine gun, SMGs, pistols, all that kind of stuff. You can have a chainsaw wielding turret that basically just spins chainsaw, so the zombies will be attacking the turret, but then they're going to be getting chopped into pieces, and it's completely gory, blood everywhere. They know what they're doing. It's called Blood Waves for a reason. It's a fun zombie survival game like that. I would almost suggest it as a sale, because it's not like the most unique type of game. You've played better third-person shooters, you played better roguelike games, but for what it is and for how cheap it is, I think it might be worth it. Maybe wait for a sale on this one, but I definitely had my fun with it. If you're looking for a game like this, some high score survival arena type games like this, I think it's maybe worth a look. It's pretty good. Next game is called Daggerhood, and this is actually a really big surprise to me. When I first saw it, I was like, oh man, this is just going to be a retro-styled, crappy 2D platformer, but no sir, this is actually a really good platformer, and again, it's hinged on a mechanic that I haven't really seen be used into a game in this way for a 2D platformer like this, and it feels just really good playing through. Daggerhood, essentially you're just kind of going through levels. Think of similar to a game like a Super Meat Boy or a End Is Nigh, something like that, where it's kind of a tough, bite-sized levels. You're going through, tons of them, and the key gameplay mechanic here is that you have a dagger that you can throw at enemies to kill them. Fine and dandy, but the other thing you can do with it is you can throw the dagger. When the dagger hits a certain point on the level, say you want to reach a platform that's farther away from you, you can jump, throw the dagger, then hit the dagger button that you just threw it with, and then you will instantly teleport to where that dagger was. So you can basically run through these levels at like crazy speeds by throwing daggers to where you want to be while you're running. So the dagger run obviously goes a little bit quicker than you when you're running. So say you're running down a large hallway and they're like chainsaws or rotating blades coming down at you, and you need to go through that corridor really quickly. Just keep throwing the dagger and teleporting to where the dagger is, quickly going through the level. It's really a lot of fun. It takes some getting used to for sure, because you'll realize once you throw a dagger you kind of want to run forward with it, but then you really need to train yourself to stop, because you might end up running off a ledge and killing yourself before you can actually teleport with the dagger. There's some collectibles that you have to collect throughout each level, and those are usually kind of separate from beating the level for the most part, which is pretty cool, meaning if you want to challenge yourself, you can, but if you're finding ones really difficult, you can just kind of go through the level without collecting that, one of the three, and then just beat the level and come back to that if you need to later. So the game is very tight control-wise. It looks pretty decent. It's kind of an old-school look to it, retro style, all that kind of stuff, but it looks pretty good. Has some variety in the enemies and the levels, and again, I just really like the actual dagger teleporting mechanic in it. So, yeah, if you're into 2D platformers and you want to see it play something a little bit different, but still similar to games, again, I'd say similar to something like a Super Meat Boy or End as Nigh kind of a thing, yeah, this one might be for you. It's really good. Speaking of retro 2D platformers, another one here called Metagal, which if you guys see the name, it's very similar, yes, to Mega Man. Almost a complete rip-off of Mega Man, but it does do some of its own things. It's not quite as tight as Mega Man, obviously. It is an independent studio. Not saying that they can't, because obviously like there's studios like Image and Form and stuff that are like incredibly tight, more than any like larger AAA kind of developer. But yeah, Metagal, independent studio, kind of their take on a Mega Man game. It's really kind of cool. It's got some interesting levels. It has some interesting abilities. Not quite as quick, I would say, as Mega Man. But I think that might be a benefit to some people, because some people like more kind of methodical platformers, which this definitely is. Yeah, essentially you're kind of going, you play as a metal girl, I guess I would say, and she needs to save her scientist that created her, along with her sisters that are also metal. Basically, there's an evil enemy, comes and steals them, and you need to go save them. And there's levels where you're basically going to save each one of these metal girls, I guess you would say. They're also kind of the enemies, because the evil doctors turn them bad. A lot of this kind of fluff of story, it's really not important, but again, essentially you're going through similar to what you'd play in Mega Man with like the 8 robot masters or whatever, and you're going through these levels, attacking and hopefully trying to save some of your family, I guess. Yeah, so that's kind of the story. That's kind of the basis around it, and you're going through the levels as if it was a Mega Man game. And yeah, no, it's competent. It's pretty good. The feel isn't quite there though for me. It didn't feel quite amazing. Didn't feel as tight as I would want it to be. The fact that it's resting on its laurels a little bit, with it being just kind of a Mega Man ripoff and not really improving on it anymore, being as much too different, is kind of a detriment to the game, because it's going to mean that I'm going to compare this directly to other Mega Man games and games of that nature, and it's just not as tight as I would want it to be. Again, you can kind of push through it. It's not like it's like ruining the game or anything. It's just not as tight as the other games that I've played. So when you're playing it, it's inevitable that you're going to compare it and just realize that it doesn't feel as great when you're playing it. But it's a pretty decent try from the developers. I'd say it's the game isn't cheaping out in any way. It has a ton of levels to it, a lot of work put into it. The enemies are all good. The levels look really nice. And, everything works. It's just not quite as tight as Mega Man games. But if you are looking for another dose of Mega Man on the Switch, I think Metagal might be a game for you. So, next game, Neon Caves. Yeah, this game, I really was not a huge fan of it. I can appreciate the idea around it. So essentially, think of a game similar to like Asteroids, for example, but basically you're playing on one screen. It's a high score game, and you have a ship that can shoot, and that kind of propels you forward. But again, your ship isn't just in a 3D plane. Like the gravity is still pushing you down, so you have to shoot yourself and move yourself up and keep pushing yourself up so you don't fall below a line on the bottom of the level. So like you're constantly, think of it as you're just like jumping above a line the entire time. Think of it like Flappy Bird, where you just don't want to let it drop. You're just continuously keeping yourself above a line, and you're trying to collect different collectibles that pop up and while shooting enemies when they're popping up around you. And it really takes a lot of time to get used to, and honestly I still don't think I'm like 100% used to it. It just did not feel great when you're doing that. Like I usually love games that are different in this way, that I have to kind of master the controls, but this one just did not stick with me for whatever reason. I don't know, it's just because it seemed like the aspect of pushing, propelling yourself with shots I really like. But the fact that a lot of the enemies come from above you, and that means you then have to shoot yourself down towards where it will kill you over time, it just doesn't feel good that like every time you try to shoot an enemy that you need to kill, or you need to go collect something, you're then shooting either away from somebody while you're trying to collect something, or you're shooting yourself down towards death when you're trying to shoot an enemy. So it always seemed like everything that you're doing in the game is always kind of like, yeah, you're doing something and you're pushing yourself to that direction, or you're shooting an enemy, but it's also pushing you away to something you don't want to do. So it never feels like you're in like complete control, I guess. So that kind of didn't feel as great for me. But as far as the game goes, everything is fine. It looks decent. It's kind of got this like neon look to it with like this kind of line art, but with neon colors. And I don't know, it's like I can't really suggest this. Maybe if you find it on sale and you like these type of arcade high score games, but it just was not the game for me. Next game, Peasant Night, and another one I'm just not really a big fan of. I promise that some of these other ones are coming up are a little bit better, but yeah, Peasant Night, not really for me. It is a 2D platformer, but it is a one button jumping type of a platformer where you have a jump button, well, I guess it's two, a jump button, and you have a stop button. So essentially you're always running on the plane left to right, but you need to be able to stop yourself from hitting different hazards when you're running. So say you're running through a level, you're on a platform, you see a space in between, you need to jump, that's fine, but then you'll see that there's a beam that's coming at every few seconds shooting up, and that'll kill you. So if you're running, you have to hit down or stop, where then you'll stop right in front of where the beam is until it allows you to go through. Then you can run through and just kind of go through the level, get to the end, boom, you're done, next level. So that's the whole kind of aspect of Peasant Night that I'm actually, that's the main feature of the game, and it's just not my thing. How I find a game like this is I want to be able to speed run and go through the game, right? I want to have control. Even if I don't have control like that, I want to be able to go through the game without having to feel like I'm stopping, Like that's one thing, like a pet peeve of mine with 2D platformers, is if it doesn't have like a flow to it, and this game is purposely stopping you from having a flow when you're running through the level, like every few seconds you're going to find something where you have to literally just stop your character and wait for like a second or two to then proceed running through the level. You know what I mean? Like there's always a stopping part of this level. It's not just you running through and jumping and avoiding hazards and like feeling like a boss. This one is constantly like, oh, stop, hiccup, oh, you gotta stop, oh, stop, oh, stop, oh, stop, oh, finally beat the level, okay, oh, stop, oh, stop, oh, stop, beat the level. It's just constantly like that, and it just doesn't feel great to me. But again, like as far as the game, it works fine. There's a lot of levels, it does what it does. But just for me, how I want to play a 2D platform, which I usually like to do kind of a speed running type thing, it just doesn't fit well with how I play 2D platformers. So I would not suggest this one personally, but maybe you guys have a look at some footage and maybe let me know if this would be something for you, or if I'm being a little bit too hard on the game. Okay, 3 left. Riddled Corpses EX. This is a top-down twin stick shooter, and it's got the retro kind of art style graphics, and essentially you're just a girl. You're going through, zombies are attacking you. There's a lot of different enemies, some larger ones that are kind of big bullet sponges. Over time, you can increase your weapons, and you can unlock new characters to play as who have different kind of weapons they can use. You can increase your bullet pattern. So say you're just shooting one bullet pattern at the start, and you got to just kind of keep playing the game. You unlock a new level, and over that time you'll collect new coins, and then you can unlock new bullet patterns or new weapons and new characters and stuff like that. More hearts, more armor, that kind of thing. And it's just very basic. It is a very tough game, and it almost forces you pretty much by just making some of these enemies so bullet sponge heavy that you can't really just blow through the game. It's basically impossible to go through level 2 fresh kind of a thing. Like you can't just blow through level 1, not update anything, not level up any of your weapons or armor or anything like that, and then expect to go through level 2, 3, 4, 5, anything like that. The levels are incredibly hard, and they force you to basically die and then level up and die and level up until you collect enough, and then you can actually go through the rest of the levels. So that's something I don't like. I think if you're going to play a game like this that's a high score, it should be, you know, reasonably feasible for someone to go through at least a few of the levels without, you know, having to play hours of the game in order to unlock enough, you know, upgrades to your character in order for you to beat the coming levels. You know what I mean? It forces you, and, you know, I'd love to see someone who can start this game, you know, with just, you know, from level 1 and go through right to the end without upgrading anything, because it's basically impossible. The game is like wave based. There are a ton of zombies and characters coming at you, and there just isn't enough screen space if that's what's going to be happening, and there's just so many. And if you're only shooting one bullet that isn't that strong at someone, when you really need like, you know, 15 bullets at once or something attacking someone, and it still takes them, you know, it'll still take you like 5 seconds to kill that one enemy, it just gets ridiculously tough, and it just doesn't feel good that you can't go through the game just based off skill, and that it pretty much requires you to have leveled up weapons. But again, maybe this could be a good situation, but yeah, I did not enjoy that part of this game, but everything else as far as control, you know, the boss battles, the scenes, everything like that, it all looks really good. So if you're a twin stick shooter fan and you think you're a lot better than me, go right ahead. Next game, Sky Gambler's Afterburner. So I have 2 videos posted on Twitter for this, because at first I was like, wow, this is like a really competent, you know, 3D airplane combat game. And I was right, it was there, but one huge issue kept plaguing me throughout my playthrough of this, which I don't want to kind of damper the whole review, because again, the game is itself very competent for what it is, and it's a really fun air combat game. But one thing that kept happening to me is a drift in my controllers, and it wasn't just me using Joy-Cons with the drift there. My Joy-Cons are messed up, mainly my left one, but even my Pro Controller would have a drift issue, and it was definitely part of the game. It wasn't part of anything else. It wasn't like I was, touching the joystick or whatever when I was starting up the game or anything like that, like back in the day when you would get that with some games, like on GameCube and stuff like that. But it was just all the time. I would be playing the game, so I would constantly have a drift upwards. So if I'm trying to play the game and I'm trying to line up on an enemy, and shoot some missiles and kill that enemy, I'm slowly drifting up all the time. So I always have to kind of keep my finger down so that I can constantly try to level it out, and it just did not feel good. I could not fix it. I have no idea why. I know I would have enjoyed the game so much more than I did, but that was just an issue. I left the developers some comments about it, and they kind of responded back to it, but it doesn't seem like anyone else is seeing it, so it's just a me thing. I don't want to be unfair to the game, because the game itself seemed pretty good. It went through some interesting different scenarios, has quite a few levels to play, and it controlled really well. It had some pretty satisfying kills, I don't know what the problem is. Some of the few things I would say that are actual negatives of the game, that wasn't just a seemingly crazy circumstance just for me. The sound design is terrible. Some sound just doesn't even work. Sometimes you won't hear any weapons being shot or any kills. There is no rumble feedback for when you're getting hit, which I think would be a big bonus. Or if you're hitting someone else, it would have been more immersive and would have just felt better, made the game better itself. But yeah, other than that though, like again, the actual combat of doing a pit maneuver, turning around, shooting enemies, and actually killing them, and getting that reticle when you're actually hitting them, and shooting missiles, homing missiles at enemies and boats, and different things like that. It's all really good, and you're kind of going through kind of like a ho-hum story, really nothing too much to it. It's just kind of trying to be realistic, but not really, and yeah, I don't know, like I enjoyed it for what it was, even with the terrible control problems. I don't know, yeah, if hopefully the controller problems doesn't happen to you guys, but if they don't, I think this might be a good game for anyone who's into like the air combat games, Ace Combat, all that kind of stuff. Or one of my favorite air combat games back in the day was Blazing Angels, which let me know if any of you guys have heard of that from the Wii days, actually. Next and final game for the games I've been playing recently is called Super Treasure Arena. So this is a 4-player co-op online multiplayer game, very arcadey, and essentially you're just kind of in a level. You're going to and you just need to collect as much treasure as you can. So whether you're getting attacked by all these zombies and different AI controlled enemies that are coming after you, you need to get to the treasure pretty much. If you're killing enemies, you might collect some treasure while you're doing it, or you might need to kill the enemies in order to leave a path for you to get to a certain treasure box or something like that. You know, it's all treasure based, and you're collecting it. So then after the end of that level, you'll be compared with the rest of the players that you're playing against or that you're playing with, and yeah, that's essentially it. So it's a co-op online multiplayer party game, I'd say, and it was a little fun. I played it with my brother for a little bit. And it was fun for what it was. It wasn't anything too crazy, too special. I think it would be better in an actual party setting, you know, where you're actually like going up against people. You're trying to collect as much gold as you can. You're finding different treasure chests that pops up in one area of the map that they weren't aware of, and then you find it, and all of a sudden you're in the lead. You know, a lot of that kind of stuff could be fun. I think a lot of it is more about the party aspect that you could be playing it in. And but yeah, there is online matches that you can play as well with it, which is pretty cool. So like that's one thing. But again, I think the actual party atmosphere would be lending more to this game itself. But it's a pretty decent game. You know, it's not quite my cup of tea for the most part, but as far as multiplayer games go, I think you could do worse on Switch for sure. So that's a game you might want to take a look at. Super Treasure Arena, if you're into those kind of online competitive arcade type games. It's more of a twin stick shooter as well for the most part, but it's a interesting little game. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, whoa, that is a long games I bought and played recently. Again, I haven't recorded a podcast in I think a little over a month, so I had quite a few games I've been playing recently. There's even more if you follow me on Twitter. But let's get into the some of the hot topics I want to go over. So the Nindies showcase. Yeah, that happened quite a little while ago in March, and I did not have the chance to really record or do a live reaction or anything like that, but I was floored. I loved that direct. I like the new guys that they have for it. It's pretty cool. They have this new kind of cute chick that's there. They have, what's his face? This guy who's apparently like 8 feet tall and just huge. You can see in the direct format when they're actually filming, if you actually compare like their body size and stuff, it's clear that she was on like a gigantic like stair or something like that. Because you cannot just comparing their body like where her legs would be to his like knees. It's crazy. Anyway, the actual games though, huge, some really good games. So I'm going to run over a lot of them and let you guys know my thoughts on some of them. Overland was the first one shown, and it was kind of an interesting game. I don't know if I really like the whole tile look to it, where like each kind of level you're in is just kind of like a somewhat small tile that you're going through, so it doesn't seem very expansive in that way. It did look pretty good. This is a game I'd be waiting for some reviews on personally. Next game they showed is Neocab, which does remind me of another. I'm trying to remember what the other game was. It was like Night Taxi or something. But it does remind me a lot of another taxi game coming to us on Switch. But this one does look pretty cool too. It's got some interesting looking characters and animations. I like the colors, the whole neon aspect to it. And I like the aspect that, you're kind of playing as a driver. You're going through a futuristic city where people are, you're basically the last human, driver in like an Uber kind of a situation. And you're trying to find, I think the story was that you're trying to find your missing sister, and you get to see a lot of different backseat passengers that you're picking up and dropping off to different locations, and you're learning some things about the world and about your sister, and I kind of like that. So this is another game I'm definitely keeping my eye out on. Both of these taxi games for Switch. I like the idea, and I am a big fan of visual novels, and this seems like it'll have quite a lot of similarities to that, so that's another game I'm looking forward to. Katana Zero. So this is a Devolver game, and they have just been absolutely killing it on Switch. I got to do a separate video just about them at some point, because they've just been dropping hit after hit after hit, hidden gem after hidden gem, and this game looks like it could be another one of those. But I think I think people were overhyping this game a little bit more than what it deserves. I honestly wasn't completely floored with it, at least from the very beginning. But the more I have looked at it, the more I've been kind of convinced. But yeah, Katana Zero, it's kind of interesting. I like a lot of these games that have come out, like Hollow Knight, for example, and I know like Dead Cells, a lot of the hits that you have, or SteamWorld, for example, the impact of the actual action of hitting something feels really good. Whether it's going to be rumble, whether it's like this flash on the screen when you're doing it, this game has that, and that is a huge bonus right there. That means that these developers know game development, and they know good game design and how it will feel when you're playing it. So this is a huge bonus that they have that kind of aspect to the game, and it does look pretty cool. I like some of the kind of quirky kind of things to it about going to a psychiatrist or whatever at the end of each level. I know this is another game I'm definitely keeping an eye out on, and more likely than not, I'm going to be picking this up. Next game, Creature in the Well. So Creature in the Well, another game that looked really kind of cool to me. I've been kind of interested in pinball games more and more recently. I've played those Zen Pinball, so I wasn't really crazy interested in those, but I did really love Yoku's Island Express. So seeing another kind of pinball mix into a different genre is really cool. The visuals look stunning. It looks amazing visually. And essentially, it looks like a mix of a pinball game and Hyper Light Drifter, which, again, is an amazing game on Switch. And yeah, no, it has a really cool look to it. Definitely on my radar for sure. Creature in the Well. Next game, Bloodroots. Yeah, this is one of the crazier looking games. This isn't a complete sell for me so far, but I love the main mechanic of the game. So essentially, the whole environment that you're running around in is your weapon. So say there's a tree there, you can knock down that tree, climb up that tree to then get to a different location, drop that tree on a different person. You can roll on a barrel, throw that barrel into someone, kill them. A lot of different things like that. You can, go on a different like wagon that will blow through different enemies. So essentially, yeah, you're just running through these levels that seem like almost puzzle levels where you want to kill all the enemies in that level as quick as you can. So you're jumping onto different contraptions, running into people, killing them, jumping off that, slamming down onto like a log or something like that to kill someone else, and kind of putting together these combos as you're moving through the levels. It's pretty interesting. I'm not completely sold on this one. Again, this is another one that might be waiting for reviews. Next game, Pine. So this is interesting because the actual gameplay, I think, would have sold it better than if they actually did this trailer that they did. The trailer was a little weird. It had some bad sound editing to it. Kind of some of the zoom ins didn't really, do the actual game's graphics justice, in my opinion. And I didn't like some of the looks of the menu systems and stuff like that. It looks like it's trying to be a 3D open world RPG similar to like a Skyrim. And I don't know. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for it. I'm going to wait and see what the price is, and I'll see some of the reviews for it. But I do have a feeling I'm going to pick this up at some point. It does look pretty ambitious, especially as an indie game. And that's one big thing about this whole Nindies showcase that they had, is the variety of games they showed were pretty massive. It was really interesting to see that, it's not just the 2D games that everyone likes to complain about. It never was just that, but I can see why some people are saying, oh, well, there's too many. Well, there you go. Almost every game they showed here is a completely different genre, and I think Nintendo's been listening, and that's what they've been showing off, is a different type of game for some people. And that's one thing that I love about these Nindies showcases and directs, is they emphasize a game that they know is going to be of relatively decent quality. So if you're into those type of games, you already know it's going to be a good game. You know what I mean? Like, I might be saying I'm waiting for reviews, but that's me saying because I'm maybe not totally into that genre of game right now. You know what I mean? So like, if Nintendo's putting a spotlight on these games, it means that they know that these games have something special, something unique, something that they know their audience, or like a audience that is on Switch, will enjoy. So that's something I really like about these Nindies showcases. Next games they showed were this group of games from a developer, Super Crate Box. I played that for free actually on Steam years ago actually, and I had a lot of fun with it. I actually played that game quite a bit, but again, it was for free back then, so that's definitely a skip for me. Nuclear Throne, it's a new game from Vlambeer, the guy who the people are bringing Super Crate Box. Again, not really a game I'm going to be picking up, but maybe if I get a review code or something, maybe. Swim Sanity really didn't impress me. The visuals, it looks like an old Flash game or something like that. I don't know. And again, not really my cup of tea, these kind of 4-player games like this, unless it's just a straight up party setting thing. I won't have those nearly as often as I would need in order to get my money out of a game like this. So that's a skip for me for sure. Darkwood. So this is a game that I'm actually kind of interested in. I like these kind of more bite-sized survival horror games, and this one seems very similar to a type of game I'd be looking to play. Very dark, only where you have a light you're actually going to be seeing where you're going. It's got my interest for sure. So Darkwood is definitely on my list to keep an eye out for. So the next game, I'm going to go over some of the more bigger hitters. I'll say for the direct. Cuphead. I'm definitely going to get the game. I think I might wait for a sale for it. I have just so many other games I can play, so I think I might wait for a sale just because I know it'll drop down at some point. But Cuphead is a huge win. I've been waiting for this game. I was hoping that I'd be able to play it at some point, because I know I wouldn't want to play it on PC, and I know I'm not going to buy an Xbox One, so I was hoping it would either get ported to PS4 or Switch, and yes, thank God it's Switch. Perfect for Switch. I can't wait to play that. Next one is My Friend Pedro. I shit you guys not, this is going to be a huge game. Well, not huge, maybe not sales numbers, but it is a Devolver Digital game. It will get a lot of push, and the game looks fucking awesome. I still love going back to that first trailer that they had and at the Devolver Digital E3 press conference last year. It's I can't wait for that game. It looks awesome. One of the biggest surprises and one of my most interested games shown in the Direct is called The Red Lantern. So essentially you're playing, it's a survival roguelite game. That kind of worries me with this game. I'd like it to be more story driven, kind of going through. But it is a roguelite, so maybe it is kind of like, you get to a certain point and you kind of continue through the story, which could make a lot of sense. It's voiced by Ashley Graham, I believe. Is it Graham? I think it's Graham. Ashley she's the voice actor of Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, which is really cool. So really good voice acting talent. It'll be a lot of kind of monologuing throughout the whole game. But you're basically going through the Iditarod race, and basically you're a musher. A dog. Man, I can't think what it is. I'm not gonna edit this out. You're a dog musher or whatever it is. Dog sledder. Jeez, wow, I am an idiot. Yes, you're fuck biggest brain fart of life. But a dog sledder, and so like you're kind of going through this race, but it looks like it's a whole survival game too. You're gonna have health packs. There's different a whole bunch of different circumstances that can happen as you're going through the race. Seems really cool. I like kind of the self-reflection of why she's doing this, and they really sold me on the game. So this is probably going to be a day one for me when it comes out. Really interested in it. Next game they showed is called Rad from Double Fine. I'd like Double Fine as an idea. I like Tim Schafer as an idea of his. I never really got into too many of their games themselves. I did get Broken Age recently from Limited Run, but I don't know. Rad didn't really impress me too much. A lot of people are liking it just because it's Double Fine and he's in an Indies presentation, which is, kind of cool, which, again, is another point to me saying indie doesn't mean jack shit anymore. Rad, I don't know. It wasn't too rad for me. Okay. Next game I want to go over is Blaster Master 02. I have not picked it up yet, but I will at some point. Again, I think I'm just going to wait for a sale. I believe it's $11.99, I believe, in Canada. So, very cheap, and the game looks like they just improved on the previous one in many ways. I really liked Blaster Master 0 on Switch. It was one of the first games I got on Switch. And, interesting. Stranger Things 3... not interested in it at all. It just looks like it's just going to be, it doesn't actually, it's in the world, but is it really? Like, they're just going through some like facility and just killing, stranger things throughout the whole game. I don't know. I'm definitely going to watch the new season though, for sure. The last game that they showed is Crypt of the Necrodancer. a spin-off of that, Cadence of Hyrule. And yes, Zelda is in it, which is really cool to me. I actually bought Crypt of the Necrodancer a few weeks before this announcement, which is really kind of cool because it was on sale then for really cheap too. So I picked it up and I've been playing it recently, and I don't know what to think of it quite yet. I am enjoying it so far, but I've probably only put maybe like 15-20 minutes into it so far. So I'll update you guys later about what my actual final thoughts are on the game. But I think for a game like that, being a Zelda mix with the music from Zelda, I think that's going to be a huge bonus, and it looks really good. Really cool. I love the idea that an indie studio is going to have the property of Zelda to be used in one of their games. I would love to see some more of these, and Nintendo should really use this. They don't have as much, big name third-party support out there, and a lot of their games do sell better that are of their original properties. So maybe they should start fishing some of these games out to more indie studios too, just to get spin-offs going, increase the IP. You know what I mean? Make sure it's a reputable studio like these guys are, and I think that'd be really cool. I guess. Well, yeah, that's the end of the Nindies showcase. Again, like the huge heavy hitters there, a lot of really great games, and a lot of them I'm definitely keeping my eye out on for. So, a lot of stuff to go over there. But kind of what I want to talk about now are some of my ideas for indie developers that should take on some Nintendo properties. I probably will make a whole video about this, maybe like a top 10, but I wanted to go over one that I would say for sure, kind of based off of a Nintendo Voice Chat podcast episode I listened to recently. Imogen Form. Oh my god. Give them any Nintendo property and they will kill it. They know game design like no other, honestly. Like it's stupid impressive that they can go through all these different genres and still make killer games each time. I can't wait for SteamWorld Quest to come out, A Hand of Gilgamesh. Or Gilgamesh. I think it's Gilgamesh, but whatever it is. I can't wait for that freaking game. And Imogen Form, if they got any property from Nintendo, heck, give them F-Zero and they'd make it a good game. You know what I mean? That'd be a crazy thing. But I have a feeling we won't see another one for a while. I feel like this is a good test. They probably have a good rapport with the developers from Cadence, from Crypt of the Necrodancer. So they'll see how this does, if this is received well, and then I feel like they might be willing to give up some other IPs out there. So really, really cool to see, and I'm just really excited to get this game playing, and it's coming out very soon too. Which again, this whole Nindies showcase was for games coming out like very, very soon, like this spring. You know what I mean? Like 2018 is so fucking packed with games, like I've been trying to catch up on my backlog and I've been doing pretty well, but man, I still have so many VR games I need to play. I have like a ton of PS4 games like Gravity Rush 2, Last Guardian, Dishonored 2, Witcher 3. Like, man, it's been crazy, but 2018 is just packed, and the amount of indie games coming out too is just at an all-time high, and man, it's just been crazy. But let's get on to the next and last segment. So the last segment is just about Borderlands 3. So I did watch the presentation. I have never played a Borderlands game, but I do own Borderlands 2 VR, and they did talk about it, and I think I definitely got to jump into it. I've watched the recent commercials and trailers that they have on YouTube, and the game looks really cool. I love the style. I love the look of it, and I'm going to get on to Borderlands 2, and I'll see about getting Borderlands 3 at some point, maybe. Again, I'm not into the big looter shooter thing. I've always been more of a single-player type of a gamer. I do like some of the, multiplayer games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, but I've never been kind of into the looter shooter type games. I was thinking of jumping into Anthem, but I'm going to wait for that thing to drop to like $5 and used or something, so I don't give EA any of my money. Sorry, BioWare, but you guys got to cut the cord between you two. Trust me. So Borderlands 3, the presentation was pretty funny. A lot of errors, but I love how kind of raw it was. And it looks really cool. Bulletstorm's also coming to Switch, which I played Bulletstorm a little bit on PS3. I think on I think my brother had it actually. I think I played his copy of it. And I thought it was pretty cool. I only played a little bit of the first level, I think, and I thought it was pretty cool. If it drops to $19.99 or less, I'll get it. But again, this is just another old game port. People like to hype it up for Switch, but a lot of these games we're getting are just old game ports that, yes, it's nice that we get them, but I need to see some new games, people. Indie games are bringing them. Nintendo is hopefully going to really pick it up, which they definitely are in 2018, but I'm still not seeing too many of these crazy new ones from third parties, so not happy about that. But either way, Borderlands 3, yeah, that's definitely a thumbs up for me. Really cool, and happy to see a studio kind of rally together for a release like this. It's really cool, and also cool not to see too many leaks go out there. It means that development company is a pretty close family, so that's really cool to see. Yeah, there it is, guys. There's episode 25 of No Filter a Nintendo Podcast. It was a long one, a lot of games to talk about, and I promise I'll be back a lot quicker than this time, and have some different topics to go over. This one seemed like maybe a little more of kind of clearing up some of my thoughts over the weeks that I missed, so apologize for that, and I will definitely be a little more active over the next few weeks, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you all in the next video.